today we're going to go through the process of updating Survival Game Kit 1.8.4 to 1.8.5. Now, this is for the Survival Game Kit only. You may have done some customizations or something like that to it. This is not for the merged versions. That will be a separate set of videos that will cover some of the various details that might pertain to having Advanced Locomotion System and Survival Game Kit together. But if you don't have that merged version, this update video should help you to just implement the fixes from Diffuse Studios. If you want to follow along, make sure you go to diffusestudios.com and you'll see under patch notes, they have the 1.8.5 hotfix. And there are currently 5 fixes and then 2 improvements to the system. So you're more than welcome to pull that up and follow along as we go. So to begin with, make sure you have it open. And we're going to first fix an issue with the screen center warning. And this is something that will need to be in the master character. So inside of Survival Game Kit in the lower left-hand side, select Survival Game Kit and search for master character. Be able to open that up. And then we will want to do a search on the upper, or actually the mid left. So you see where it says My Blueprint? Let's do a search for Set All Character Rotation. You see here, Set All Characters Rotation. Go ahead and open that up. And then to the right of this is valid, we're going to be adding a branch there. So go ahead and move Server Set Screen Center to the right. And then drag off of is valid branch. The condition we want is, so right click and do a is locally controlled, and that's a function. Connect the return value to that condition. And you can space it however you would like. But that's just making sure that it is a locally, this script, this blueprint is being run on the local machine, that it's not running it from a server or something else. So that should fix the issue with the server set screen center warning. Next, we're going to fix an issue with a foundation overlap issue. We're going to compile and save. And then we're going to be working in the build preview. So you can close that master character. And in the filters, search for build preview. Go ahead and double click to open the build preview. We're going to be in the safe or get overlapping actors. So on the left-hand side, let's search for get overlapping, and you'll see the function there, get overlapping actors. Let's zoom out a little bit. And what we need to do is get to the section that says, check if using a grid, then allow foundation overlap. You can see the very lower right-hand side. That is the section of code we're going to be working with, but we're going to be adding some things to this. First of all, we have this, we're going to have a redirect come here because we're going to pull some code and have it go to the right from the, yeah, that's a reference to the master build part. All of the rest of this is going to be correct up until a point. This isn't actually being used. It's left over from a previous update. But this return node, we're going to be adding code to the right of this return node. But what we can do is just drag this down to the lower right, and then we'll make a duplicate of it for after on true. So drag off a true, type branch. Then let's get the conditions for this. First of all, from this redirect here, drag out, and we're going to do get distance to. And you can kind of move it up there. You can redirect it around so it looks fine. Okay. And then the other actor, we're going to do a reference to self. So drag to the left from that and get self. You're getting a reference to self. And then we want to check the value of this from self to the other actor. We want to see if it's greater than. So float greater than float. And for that value of what we're checking, if it's greater than, put 100. So if it's more than 100, then this is going to be true. And drag that into the condition. And if it is true, go ahead and select that return node, make a copy, Control C, and then Control V it, and connect true to that return node. So if its distance is greater than 100, it will then return true. Next, we're going to be fixing an issue with the grids using a visibility trace. This may be an error that if someone were to be using a later version than this current version we're updating to, then you would get an error. And this is something that in the Discord we did make a mention of, but you need to add a trace channel in the project settings. So let's go to Edit, Project Settings. And then what we want to do is go to the trace channels. So on the left-hand side, you'll see collision. See this trace channel here? We need to do a new trace channel. And we're going to call it grid. And leave it as block. Hit accept. And then you can close that. Now we need to go into the master grid. So go ahead and close this build preview. Make sure it's compiled and saved before you do. And do a filter for master grid. Open up master grid. And we need to get to, on the left-hand side, create selection grid. And open up that function. In the very beginning, we have add box collision. But we need to copy this first, some settings, because there's settings on the right-hand side. So select that, and if you need to, go to the notes and you can see all these settings. But we need to match settings in here for, first of all, the collision. So let's go and make it so we can see these collision presets. For the trace, make these a little bit bigger. There you go. For trace responses, we need to make sure we select ignore. And this should be set to custom already. Query only, no physics. That's fine. So that should match the settings. We just needed to set this to be ignore. And I don't see any other settings that need to be changed other than projectile. Let's do ignore projectile because that is a setting that they have changed. So that should match what they're asking for in the directions. And now we need to go through and change the channel in some set. We just added that channel. We need to change it in some places so it actually uses it throughout the code. And we're going to do this in the player building component. So go ahead and compile and save this master grid. And then close it. So now in this filter, go ahead and search for player building component. Open that up. And for this first one, we're going to go to build trace. So building trace, search in the upper left for that, building trace. And then you'll see here this line trace by channel. Visibility, trace channel, visibility right now. You need to change that to grid. The rest of these settings should be fine. But what we can do is hit Control F and then search for the function name. What we can do is we could do a search, right click and do find references. That should give you, you're looking for line trace by channel. That should be, these should be all the references that we need to change. Let's go and jump through these. Change it to grid. 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 And just the rest of these in this list. That should cover them all. Now, there are some other types, so let's make sure we get all of them. So we had the line trace, we had the multi-line trace. That's fine, but there's also a box trace. We need to make sure that we also make that change. So in that search, type box trace by channel, hit enter. And then you'll see some multi-boxes and then regular boxes. We need to go through and change all these as well. Just double click through each of them and change it to grid. And compile and save that now that we've gone through all those. And then we need to do a search for change box to multi, or actually do capsule trace by channel. There only should be 2 of those. Change those to grid as well. Compile and save. And now we need to go through and change some settings in the components panel. And so to do this, we're going to be in some of the different building parts. Make sure this was compiled and saved should be. And let's do a filter for the plot hole build part. And what we want to do on the left is select zone. Look on the right, and you will have the collision presets. You need to expand that. And we need to set grid to ignore. So the rest of these should be fine. Grid to ignore, collision enabled. All that should be correct. Go ahead and compile and save that. Now close it and do a search for build preview. Select the safe overlap check. Once again, go down to the collision presets. And it needs to be, see where it says overlap all dynamic. What we want to do is make it so that that is custom. Query only, no physics collision should be correct. And then leave visibility as overlap. Change camera and grid to ignore. And the rest of these are going to be in the center, except for the last one, which is going to be on ignore for projectile. So that should be what it ends up looking like. Make sure that all of your settings match that. You can compile and save that. And then select that plot pole check. Same thing. Let's go ahead and make sure that's custom. Make it so that visibility, camera, and grid are all on ignore. The first 2 are going to be in the center. The rest are all going to be on the left. And compile and save that. The next blueprint will still be in build preview here, but let's choose the selected mesh. And then for the collision presets, go ahead and change that to custom once again. This should be the same query only, world static. Make sure the top 2 are in the middle. So visibility and camera. Make the grid on ignore. All of them are center except for the last one, which is going to be on the right. And compile and save that. Now we need to close the build preview. We need to go to the master build part. In this, you'll see on the left, Destructible. And we need to, once again, go down to the collision presets, expand that. And we want camera to be on block, grid to be on ignore. So it's left, right, left for the trace responses. And then the first two should be on the right for object responses for both static and dynamic. On should be on the left. Physics body should be on the right. Vehicle should be on the left under ignore. And then the last two on the right. Go ahead and compile and save that. Then in the same thing, we need to be selecting the preview window grid. We want all three of these to be the left under trace responses, and all on the left except for the last one, which is on the right. So that might already be set to that. And then compile and save. And then in this, once again, let's choose the preview door grid. And we want all three of these to be on the left, and all on the left except the last one, which is on the right. File and save that. Next, we're going to select that destruction, no collision. The first one's going to be a left for visibility. Camera is going to be on the right. Grid is going to be on the left. And then all of the rest are going to be on the left. Object type, we want to make that destructible. So I have destructible there. And the rest of these should be fine. So go ahead and compile and save that. And then for this last one, select the non-overlap zone. This is going to be custom, no collision, world static. All three of these are going to be to the left. The first two for object references or responses are going to be in the middle for static and dynamic. And then the rest are going to be on the left. Go ahead and compile and save that. And the final one, this is going to be in the master character. So go ahead and close this master build part. Search for master character. Select the capsule component. Scroll down to the collision presets. It will be, rather than on, we need to set it to custom. Collision enabled, on. It'll be left, right, left. The grid will be on ignore. And then all the rest will be on the right. Go ahead and compile, save. So now we can, we're going to be working on this next one in the master item. We're going to close that master character. And let's search for master item. Open that up, and we need to find spawn attachments. I'm already in there, but on the left-hand side, you can search for spawn attachments. That should take you here. And then close that filter. We want to open up the variables, and under non-edit attachments, you'll see attachments. We want it so that expose on spawn is checked. The rest of these settings can remain the same. We have instance editable, expose on pawn, and then replicated. Go ahead and compile and save that. And still in this master item, spawn attachments, we need to select player dropped. We also need to expose on spawn. And then compile and save that. Now we need to go into the player inventory component. We'll go ahead and close the master item. and do a search for player inventory component. We need to go to drop item. So in the upper left, you can search for drop item, the function. And we are going to need to fix some of these things. There's some items that we need to add a macro to, for instance, to the right of the item drop sound. We'll define that exact point. And it's also near spawn an item actor at the location and set the item details. But we want to make sure that we're right about here. So between these, we're going to be adding some code. So I'm going to expand this to the left. And then select all these boxes and move them to the left. From the play item sound, I am going to do a macro. So I'm actually going to get item at the bottom there. There's a variable reference to item. And I'm going to do is item weapon. And that's a macro. So we're going to use that reference. I'm going to control drag from weapon, or from the right of the node play item sound to the weapon, and then connect those. And that should connect to the existing code. That's fine. But from not weapon, we need to add some additional code. So first of all, drag off of not weapon, and let's search for spawn actor BP. Now, you're not going to see that. So spawn actor BP master item. So first of all, what we need to do is get some information here. So spawn actor from class. Go ahead and select that. And we're going to be then hitting the drop down and choosing master item. So BP master item. See, now it says spawn actor BP master item. And we need to get the location. And that will be the spawn transform location. So get location. You'll see down here under variables non-edit. Now, this is converting this. I just want to do a quick check here. That should be fine. Might be an update in version numbers. That is a transform. What we could actually do, and what they're wanting to do, is right click and let's split struct pin. You can see now it's not converting it. And we're going to leave the rotation as 0 and the scales as 1s. And it should look like that. So go ahead and drag and connect not weapon. For the collision handling override, we want to put always spawn, ignore collisions. For the owner, leave that as blank. And to get this, though, we need to right click and split the struct of the item. And now we're going to need to get this information. So you can control C that item up above and control V it. Let's get a duplicate of that, or you could search for that variable. We're going to break it. We need to get some information and pass it into this. So the ID, we want to pass that to the item ID. The item count we need to get because we need to actually do a quick check, pass the right information. So count, let's do a select. So right click, search for select. And then let's figure out what we need to pass to that. We need to get the drop amount. And we want to pass, if it's greater than 0, we want to make sure that there's integer greater than integer. We want to make sure that there's actually an item being dropped and put that as the index. So now it's a true false statement. You want the count to be, if it's not greater than 0, we want it to be the count. If it is greater than 0, we want it to be the drop amount. So something like this. And then the return value will go into the item count. Item index remain as 0. Item inventory remains blank. And now we need to right click and do a make weapon attachment. You'll see make weapon attachments. Leave select class and select class. and just connect that into attachments. Player dropped, select check there, leave saved loaded, unchecked, and instigator, leave that blank. So it should end up looking like this. Now this will need to be passed into a set. So drag off of the return value and set spawned item L. And then what we're wanting to do is to have this kind of bypass. So we've got a bunch of code we want to actually bypass here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this and move it right about here, because we're going to be bypassing and going all the way just past this set player dropped to this macro of is item a weapon. So go ahead and drag the set all the way there, and then you can kind of redirect it around and make it look how you'd like. So it should end up looking something like this. You can then move those closer together like that and tighten up your comment box to clean it up. So that takes care of the fixed weapons, items not showing attachments on the ground. Now we're going to go and fix a storage component saving the wrong attachment. So this, we'll go and compile and save the player inventory component. And we're going to open up the storage inventory component. Okay, go and save and close that. And then in the search and the filter in the bottom, go and type in the storage inventory component. In here, you'll need to go to the set inventories. So on the upper left, you can search for set inventories. You'll see that. And then we're going to be looking for a branch that right about here, if you look, you have your set array elements, and then to the right of that, there is a branch that is checking based on the length is greater than or equal to. And what we need to do is right after that true, drag out and do a set weapon attachment classes L. And that's all you need to do is have it be just like that. And we need to do the same thing in a couple different areas. So compile that. And then in the upper left, we're going to do a search for set convert inventories. In a very similar way, you can see here, drag off of true, just so you know, it's that first branch. I just want to make sure this is the right one though, because keep an eye out on this. So we have length here. We're wanting to do it after the is valid index, because we have save convert where you're breaking that, and then the branch here. So let's drag off of that branch and do weapon attach classes L. Compile that. And now we want to go in the upper left and search for set convert inventories. And we want to do that after the is valid index. We want right between these, we want to add some additional code. So let's go ahead and move these over. Then I'll move this to the right. I want to do get item L. You see get item L variable. Off of that, I want to break it. The item ID, I want to make item inventory. Move this over while I get it pieced together. These remain 0 and blank. And then drag off of this and is item weapon. I want to do that macro. And that is what's going to become up here. So control drag that to weapon and then connect true. So it should end up looking like this. So compile that. Then we want to do the same thing on the upper left, search for set inventories. Now we have this length, we have this one we set here before. But what we need to do is drag that to the right. I'm going to spread this out a little bit. Move my branch to the left. And then what I want to do is from true, we're going to be connecting something. I guess what we could do is item weapon. Got that macro there. I'm going to redirect this because that line keeps changing where it's at on me. All right. Why that outputs all the way over there. So actually I'm going to undo this and going to move that output down there. It doesn't need to be there. There we go. A needless line all the way across. So now we need to actually feed an item into this. So right click and get item L. And then from that, we need to break it like we did before. And then from ID, we need to drag and make item inventory. Leave all the rest of those things blank. And connect that to item. You can kind of line it up how you'd like. All right, that should fix that issue. Go ahead and compile and save that. And then we're going to be going to the plot pull build part. Go and search for that plot pull build part. Open that up. And then here we don't want to be under add owners. We need to get to the set owners, or see. We're in the event graph. That's correct. And we need to get where it says clear owners. So we've got clear owners, event clear owner list. That should be second one from the top. And then we have the original owner. What we want to do is select that and delete it. Go ahead and compile and save that. So this selects it to none. That lets other people take over bases. So rather than have it go to the original owner, it's going to now clear it. And then the final improvement, let's go ahead and open the master item spawner. Search for master item spawner. What this is going to do is reuse the items they already have spawned and it reduces the network cost quite a bit when spawning in different items. But we need to go to spawn loot. And so on the left hand side, search for spawn loot. And then if we go to the very left hand side, you'll see where it says spawn loot. And we're going to rework some of this code here. We've got an is valid check, item reference. That's fine. We have our branch, replace old. We need to delete a lot of this code. So what we're going to delete is pretty much all the way to destroy. Do we have destroy item? So these first 3 boxes, we're going to delete all of that. And you'll see where it says like get all possible items. You're going to not delete that. So up to this point, select all of these, hit delete. And then you just want to connect up spawn loot to the get all possible items to spawn. You can really shrink up that comment box. Could end up looking like this. Now you can compile and save that. Next, we'll need to go into the master items. So go and search for that. And we need to be in the event graph. Now in the blue area, there's a reset item. There's event begin play. So go up to where it says event begin play. And what we need to do is create a custom event. We're going to call that reset item. We're going to add custom event, call it reset item. And then we're going to connect. So I'm going to go and rework this comment box a little bit. I'm going to connect that into spawn attachments. So you have event begin play and you'll have reset item. And it should look something like this. I'm going to compile that, save that. And now we're going to need to reopen that master item spawner. So go ahead and master item spawner. That's the second one, should be still listed there. We should be still in spawn loop, but we need to go more towards the right here. And we'll see. Spawn the item in the world at the loot spawner's location. And then we're going to be adding things in between these 2 boxes here. So what I'll go ahead and do is make some room. Drag that out. And then everything from spawn the item in world at the spawn looter's or spawner's location. I'm going to drag all of that to the right over. And we'll reline it up here later. Okay, so that should look something like this. From this these 2 sets here where they join, I'm going to go to the right of that. I'm going to do a branch. And the condition is going to be get replace old item. Go ahead and put that in there. Now, if that's false, we want to do another branch. We want to get allow multiple items. I want to make sure, okay, if it's not replacing the old item, do we allow getting multiple items? Now, from that true, we need to do an is valid check. Do the question mark version. And what we're going to check is the item reference. So get item reference. Make sure that's valid before moving forward. Now true, we're going to continue on, but false, we want to go up to that is valid check. I'm actually going to move it a little bit like that. So false from that condition check goes to is valid. The not valid, we want to go to this existing code. So really what I want to do is control, click, and drag what was there on is valid to down to is not valid. And then we want true to go and connect into that. So go ahead and double click to add a reroute node and drag true to that reroute node. And then you can kind of line it up, something like that. So what we can do now is we're going to put stuff above all this old code. I'm going to drag that back to the left. and make it look something like that. So now what we'll do is from this is valid, we're going to drag that up. And first of all, let's do a set item. Scroll all the way to the bottom and actually, let's do a get. We're going to do something to get this first. Get item reference. Then we're going to do a set item. Now you'll see under non-edit set item. What we need to do is right click on item and do split struct pin. And now we're going to fill that information in there. So what we can do is connect is valid up to that set. And I'm going to do a redirect just so I can kind of line it up and fit some things in here. And then I'll move that to the right. So first of all, let's do a get loot spawn item. And then we're going to break that. So break. We're going to pull from that the item. And then we're going to break that. And we're going to get the table and the row name. Now, those are actually going to go to a set right after this. But we will take this row name and we're going to put that up to the item ID. So just like this. The spawn amount will go to item count. So do a get spawn amount. And then we'll feed that into the item count. Index can remain 0. Inventory can remain 0. You have your reference here. Now we're going to get another item reference. So get item reference. And then from that, we're going to set item. So just do set item. Actually, that's the wrong one. Undo that. Off of that, let's do. I'm going to do set select item. Right click on the select item and split that struct pin. And then the values that we're going to be feeding into here, you can go ahead and connect those up. But we're going to be feeding in this data table to the top of that, the item data table, and then the row name up to that row name. You can go ahead and redirect these around how you would like. Just like that. And then that event that we created, we need to right click and get item reference. From that, we're going to reset the item. And then we're going to connect the set to that reset. And this is going to connect to the is valid check. It's almost here on the end. So connect that all the way over. Is valid. Of course, you can clean that up however you'd like. So something like that. And compile and save. And then finally, what we need to do is go into the master level or the showcase level. And you see here where on the side it shows the version number. What we need to do is go to that 1.84. Need to select it and choose 1.8.5 in the text to the right. So enter that. See, that changes that version number. You can hit save. One thing I always like to do is fix up redirectors, make sure everything works in a save all, and save those items. Now, if you found this helpful, make sure that first of all, you like, subscribe, and hit the bell down below. Also join the Discord group, and that's a great way to ask questions, give support to other developers, and it's a lot of fun. People talk about different things, all kinds of different areas of game development. Also, there's a Patreon if you want to help support future purchases of assets that I can give tutorials on. And just make sure that if you want to get involved, that you join the community. Make sure you introduce yourself, tell people maybe what you're working on, And don't be afraid to ask a question. Enjoyed this video. Hope you'll check out the next one. And I thank you very much for joining me, and I'll catch you tomorrow.